UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres expressed concern about the escalation in the Middle East and warns that the region is on the brink of an abyss. In Venezuela, the delegation of the Colombian government in talks with the National Liberation Army, ELN, confirmed the beginning of the extraordinary round of dialogues. And in Niger, demonstrators took to the streets to demand the immediate withdrawal of U.S. troops. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has expressed concern about the escalation in the Middle East and warns that the region is on the brink of an abyss. The head of the multilateral organization spoke at the Security Council convened by Israel after the Iranian operation, True Promise. There he assured that the peoples of the region are facing the real danger of a devastating large-scale conflict, called on the parties to de-escalate the situation immediately. The effectiveness of the United Nations has been put to the test by Israel and the United States in the midst of the genocidal operation they are carrying out in Gaza, allowing the murder of more than 15,000 Palestinian children, cast doubt on the whole UN system. In the meantime, Vasily Nevencia, representative of Russia in the United Nations, accuses both the organization for its lack of character and the West for hypocrisy of being responsible for the escalation of war in the Middle East. The diplomat described the session urgently convened on Sunday as a parade of hypocrisy and double standards. Nevencia referred to the meeting on April 2nd, promoted by Russia, where they were to discuss the terrorist attack on an Iranian diplomatic headquarters in Damascus. The authorities recalled the United States, France, and the United Kingdom that they refused to reaffirm the basic principles of diplomatic law on the inviolability of delegations when Israel assassinated Iranian officials in the Syrian capital. The Supreme National Security Council of Iran reiterated on Monday that any aggression by the Zionist occupier will be met with a strategy 10 times greater than that of April 14th. The Iranian entity affirmed that the Operation True Promise is a legal and legitimate action protected by the United Nations Charter. The body of guardians of the revolution also pointed out that it informed several countries and governments, including the United States, well in advance. This version was confirmed by officials from the Pentagon and the Turkish Foreign Ministry, who acted as mediators between Washington and Tehran. Reiterating that the operation was successful, Iran reaffirmed its readiness for any scenario that might arise. The Iranian armed forces have confirmed Operation True Promise in response to the Israeli attacks on the Iranian consulate in Syria completed, and it has been extremely successful. Iranian Armed Forces Chief of Staff Major General Mohammad Bagheri reiterated statements made by Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi about the operation being in defense of sovereignty and national interests, because with the attack on the Iranian consulate in Syria, Israel had crossed all of Iran's red lines, and that was unacceptable. Also, Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps Commander-in-Chief Hossein Salami said that the True Promise operation was successful beyond all expectations.
From our side, this operation is over and we have no intention to continue. But if the Zionist regime takes any action against the Islamic Republic of Iran, either on our soil or in places that belong to us in Syria or elsewhere, our next operation will be much bigger. The impacts of which we have accurate and documented information on the ground show that the operation was extremely successful, beyond our expectation.
Iranian citizens took to the streets of Iran to celebrate the Revolutionary Guard's response against the Israeli regime. Citizens gathered in different parts of Iran to show their support. The largest mobilization took place in the capital, Tehran, at the Palestinian Square, where demonstrators also showed their support to the Palestinian cause and rejected the Israeli occupation. Mobilizations were held as well in front of the United Kingdom Embassy. Also in Jordan, hundreds of citizens gathered near the Israeli embassy in Amman to protest the genocide in the Gaza Strip. They demanded that official measures be taken to stop the launching of missiles and in addition to guaranteeing the entry of humanitarian aid into the territory. Iran opened on Monday the Khomeini and Mehrabad airports located in its capital, Tehran. Operations at Mehrabad Airport started at 5:30 a.m. local time, and half an hour later they were reactivated at Imam Khomeini. The activities started amid restrictions imposed on Sunday after the execution of the True Promise mission in response to the Israel's aggressions against Persian interests and officials. The Israeli armed forces carried out 4 massacres in the Gaza Strip, leaving 43 Palestinians killed and 62 wounded over the weekend. Palestinian Health Ministry reported that the total death toll from Israeli genocide against Gaza rose to 33,729, while more than 76,000 people have been wounded. Health authorities also detailed that several victims are still on the rubble and on the roads, where civil defense teams and ambulances cannot reach them due to the Israeli siege. For its part, the Palestinian Foreign Ministry denounced the crimes committed by armed Israeli settlers against Palestinian citizens and called on the international community to reject these actions and to judge the guilty parties of these actions. On Monday, Israel released 150 Palestinians held hostage in the Gaza Strip who revealed having been tortured and mistreated. The General Authority of Crossings and Borders detailed that they were released at the Kerem Shalom crossing near the triple line of demarcation among Gaza, Egypt and Israel. In that regard, and alongside social organizations, they accuse Israel of torturing those kidnapped in Gaza, many of whom are being transferred to unknown locations. The women recently released by Tel Aviv denounced the beatings and the threats of rape while they were deprived of their freedom. Up to date, 8,000 Palestinians in the West Bank have been abducted by the Zionist entity since the onset of the current wave of violence on October 7th. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. All the stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back. The delegation of the Colombian government in talks with the National Liberation Army (UN) confirmed on Sunday the beginning of an extraordinary round of talks in Caracas, the capital of Venezuela. The initiative was proposed by the guerrilla group considering that the peace process is going through a critical stage. The meeting began on Saturday and will last until April 22nd. They also confirmed that on Friday, the parties held meetings with the representatives of the guarantor and accompanying countries. The ceasefire and territorial transformations will be some of the issues to be addressed in this round, to which the Colombian president made reference. The government of President Gustavo Petro is promoting a policy of total peace through the establishment of dialogue tables with various illegal armed groups. The Attorney General's office opened an investigation on Sunday to locate the culprit in the murder of social leader Jaime Vázquez, a crime committed in northeastern Colombia. The incident occurred at 9 a.m. local time in Cúcuta, in the La Riviera neighborhood in the north of Santander, when men on a motorcycle shot at Vázquez. Meanwhile, the department's governor's office offered a reward of 50 million pesos, equivalent to $13,000, for anyone who helps solve this crime and cooperates in locating the attackers. According to the balance of the Institute of Studies for Development and Peace, so far in 2024, at least 43 social leaders have been murdered in the country. In Ecuador, issued on Sunday a regulation to apply voluntary euthanasia to people with serious and incurable illnesses or injuries. The Ministry of Public Health indicated that in order to request the application of voluntary active euthanasia, a medical report signed by the treating doctors of the national health system will be necessary. A definitive diagnosis of the illness or bodily injury suffered by the patient will also be a requirement. In the case of voluntary active euthanasia, notarized advance directives or relieving wills and a copy of the judicial decision supporting the legal representation are required. Euthanasia is a procedure that consists of the administration of drugs in lethal doses with the objective of causing the anticipated death of the applicant. Pope Francis expressed his support to the farmers of the community of San Juan Bautista de Catacaos in the north of Peru. In a message broadcast by the Archbishop of Lima, the pontiff called on farmers to defend their land and prevent dispossession. Part of his communication was directed to the blessing he gave in honor of them, to whom he asked to continue their struggle. This support is Francis' response to the denunciations presented by the farmers last year at the Vatican. There they explained that the companies associated with the group Sodalitium Christiana Vitae had tried to evict them from their land. On a joint operation by the Mexican Navy, over 120 million tons of precursor chemicals were seized from the fierce Sinaloa gang. In coordination with the Federal Commission for Protection Against Health Risk and members of the civil force, those basic chemicals for methamphetamine production were confiscated. According to the Navy Secretariat, intelligence work revealed that the substances were to be sent to the gang of the Pacific. The operation was launched in the cities of Monterrey and Culiacan, and incidents have been linked to the Mayo Zambada, a powerful drug trafficker from Northern America. We have a final short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience. You can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with teleSUR. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back. In Niger, citizens rallied for demanding that the governing board immediately expel U.S. troops from the territory. As happened with the French troops after the Nigerian government put an end to the agreement that allowed the presence of Washington's armed forces, citizens demanded their immediate withdrawal. Protesters further reaffirmed that the era of empires and colonies was over. Niamey had signed an agreement allowing the presence of 1,000 Pentagon soldiers, which was dissolved by the governing board that has opted for a military exchange with Russia. Niger continues to expel any Western remnants and reaches $1 million oil deal with China. 3 agreements were signed in Niamey, the country's capital, by the Nigerian Prime Minister Ali Lamin Saine and the general manager of the Chinese state oil company CNPC, Su Sukum. They are included in an advance of $400 million paid by the Chinese company and an interest rate of 7%. The agreement provides for a memorandum of understanding and a joint crude oil marketing contract. The Nigerian premier welcomed his country's cooperation with Beijing and criticized previous governments for mortgaging the country to enemy powers. On Monday, the war in Sudan reaches its first year. The conflict between the army and paramilitary forces has left over 15,000 deaths and 25 million people dependent on humanitarian aid. After several months of tensions between the Rapid Support Forces and the army for the vacant power after the coup of 2019, heavy fighting broke out, and today there are 10 million displaced people. Humanitarian organizations have also denounced massacres committed in Darfur, more than 19 million children without schools, and an increase in the number of and violence of sexual crimes, including those committed against children. Despite international efforts, peace in that North African nation does not look like a possibility in the short term. On Sunday, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky acknowledged that the situation of his troops in Donetsk is worsening. He took advantage of the crisis in the Middle East to refer to the abandonment of his partners. He assured that the Israeli anti-aircraft system explains what defense means, adding that the aid to Kiev has been limited. For a week now, his officers at the front have been denouncing a borderline situation. The president himself acknowledged in a meeting with young people that an entire battalion had deserted, and his Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dmytro Kuleba, has even proposed to rent equipment to them, amidst that the advance of the Russian troops has not weakened. In Russia, new floods were reported in the residential areas of Orenburg city over the weekend. The mayor of Orenburg, Sergei Salmin, announced a massive evacuation in the area on Friday after the Ural River water level increased. The authorities classified the situation in the region as a federal emergency of major importance. The water level is expected to exceed 11 meters, putting the city at risk of flooding, and residents of all settlements along the river have been asked to evacuate from the area.
As long as there is light, electricity, and water, we will stay here. Of course, we are ready to move with our relatives at any time. They are ready to provide shelter.
Today we placed a lot of sacks in that half. We started to build a dam from there. We moved and came here. Some people are working on one side, some are on the other. They are still working there now.
Rochas Science Academy Geophysical Service has reported activity in the crater of the Ebeco volcano in the Caribbean archipelago. The Geophysical Service has confirmed the presence of an ash plume higher than 2,000 meters above sea level coming from the Ebeco crater. According to sources, the smoke cloud extends 7 kilometers to the southeast of the Caribbean archipelago. The 1,156-meter high volcano last erupted in 2012. Then it remained calm until 2016. Since then, it has spewed ash every so often. In 2018, the Ebeco volcano had a 6,000-meter high smoke plume. In Germany, for the first time since 2012, the Bundesliga has a new champion, Bayer Leverkusen. Their 25th league win of the season on Sunday confirmed a title they have secured in unbeaten, record-breaking, and surprising fashion. Bayer Leverkusen have broken Bayern Munich's stranglehold on the Bundesliga title after a 5-0 win over Werder Bremen confirmed Xabi Alonso's side as champions with 5 games to spare. Fans rushed from the stands to the pitch to celebrate the moment. Leverkusen were not among the favorites for the title at the beginning of the season, with Bayern expected to wrap up a 12th consecutive title and Borussia Dortmund piped to the post last year, anticipated to be their closest challengers. But Spanish coach Alonso has led his team to the verge of the first invincible season in Bundesliga history, with the German Cup final to come and Leverkusen still in the Europa League. In this context, Bayern Leverkusen not only won the championship on Sunday, but could also win other titles and even set a new winning record. Bayern Leverkusen has become Bundesliga champion for the first time in its history. The team is undefeated in 29 matches, 25 wins, an absolute record in the tournament. Bayern Leverkusen is still alive in all competitions, maintains aspirations in the German Cup and the Europa League. The reigning German champions added another achievement to this historic title. They matched Juventus for a 3-match unbeaten streak, and if Leverkusen were to win their Europa League quarter-final match against West Ham, they would set a new record with 44 consecutive matches without defeat. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.